if you can recognize you are in Colombo by look just within the vicinity of the Nelum Tower as well. So things have been changed completely, and the Colombo skyline has been changed, and also because of this massive infrastructure projects happening all around the country, of the country as well as the well-being of the citizens of that country. And construction industry is the fourth largest industry in Sri Lanka, and it has been contributing to 66 to 7% before COVID to the GDP. And Sri Lankan government has been doing a massive investment to the infrastructure developments. And also it has been providing 1 million jobs to the Sri Lankans directly or indirectly, as well as some workers coming from outside Sri Lanka as well. And these are some highlights of the industry. And the construction industry is very sensitive Yes, sorry about that. I lost the connection. Sorry about that. I hope you can hear me perfectly. So then, what I have been telling is like the construction industry is very sensitive to the socio-economic conditions happening outside. Now what happened is like until 2019 it has been booming very rapidly, but then came COVID-19. COVID-19 has made a major impact to the construction industry, not only in Sri Lanka, but also in other countries as well. The stability of the industry has been completely disturbed. Mainly because of the construction industry is highly labor intensive and highly dependent on outside supply chains. When there is something happening in the outside the country, there's like we are highly dependent to many materials which being provided outside. So construction industry is completely disturbed. So it is like according to the Price Water Cooper report, one of the mostly affected sectors. And then high-rise building, which was been happening in Colombo and any other mainly in urban areas, has been slowed down, and in investors been discouraged to invest, and workflow has been slowed down, and then country has been on a lockdown for 52 days. So then that shows. Construction industries highly dependent on the other sectors. So then that is why I am here today, like as a kind of a representative from a construction industry, and to the experts from the medical industry, where like we are highly dependent. That is because we are highly dependent on the pandemic situation, as well as from the construction industry. There can be impact to the well-being of the country and then the community. So then it is like a mutually exclusive situation. So like now these are some of the highlights, which I'm not going into details. So then I would like to discuss about the cross section of the construction workers. The construction workers are construction workers are mainly uh, uh, they are coming from mainly from farming background. In Sri Lanka, we call them the part-time workers, because the construction workers, they come in the when there is no paddy field work in the their rural areas, they come to the urban areas for construction work, and then they go back. And also, they are kind of, we can call them marginalized community, because they are in the outskirts of getting the information from the from the main sources, as well as they are the basic building blocks in the in the beginnings of the construction, because without the support from the construction workers, we can't sustain the construction industry. And their education backgrounds might be in a lower level, and therefore their behavioral patterns might be different, and they are highly, so not needless to say, therefore because of these, out of all these reasons, they are very highly vulnerable to COVID-19, as well as any other pandemic or any other vector-borne disease. So they, like, if you look at the Singapore case study, there is a situation in Singapore happened last year in April. Even though all the things are going well for Singapore, but then there was an outbreak happen in a dormitory, which I will be discussing at later stage as well. So moving on, the here I would like to give some background context to the construction industry. So the construction workers, they are there, like for the youth, the skilled workers, we can't attract the skilled workers, because for 8-hour very hard work, the earnings might be not that much compared to a job occupation, which is like driving a three-wheeler. So sometimes driving a three-wheeler might be overall sense might be more economical for them, without like less physical work. They can earn there might be a similar salary. So then most of the youth are not being attracted to the construction industry, and therefore sometimes they are skilled. We have a very difficulty in finding skilled workers compared to the manufacturing industry. And therefore, that is one of the reasons why we have to bring workers from China or from India or Cambodia or any other country. So then that also creates another socio-economic, political situations as well. And also with them, there can be diseases come into Sri Lanka as well. I think I read somewhere that few malaria cases has been initiated in a construction site where Indian construction workers were working. So the construction labor productivity, as I told you, labor are the basic building blocks of the construction industry. And construction productivity, in this figure, you can see that when compared to other industries, for example, manufacturing, construction industry labor productivity is going down. And at the same time, their productivity levels are also in a very low level. As you can see, they work only 1/3 of the time of per for this from one of the studies we have conducted, only 3 hours per day. So that means they have been paid for 8 hours, but they are working only for 3 hours, right? So then that may one of another observations are, so they come to the site without being prepared, and then sometimes they have maybe have consumed alcohol or any other substance, or they might smoke at construction sites, and sometimes they use smartphones at sites, and they take excessive tea breaks and then early quits. So then this is kind of this gives some background of who is the construction worker, and also what happened is in the industries that sometimes industries also not so, as you can see, they work in very high levels, very high altitudes, but there is no protection being given to them. So then, as you can see, they are bringing down the scaffolding units, and then no fall arrest being provided for them. This is like I recorded this from in a Colombo in a heart of the Colombo, one of the construction sites being carried out by one of the leading construction companies. So this is like I don't want to criticize anyone or any company, I'll name any company or anything, just to show you the situation in the country. Uh, and also moving on with the some other cases, sometimes they have been provided with the personal protective equipment, but they might not be using them as they were instructed. And also they might be using some very hazardous material equipments. Then these equipments, they might not be using them as instructed or as been trained. And also, while they are using this equipment or the machines, they might have taken some substances which have been very common in the construction industry. So some substances they use to enhance. They believe that they can enhance their performances. So then they use these substances while they work. So which is again creating a situation which is very harmful. Which is again, as I told, again one interesting figure where they use. They've been provided the personal protective equipment, but they might be just using them for the sake of using them, or else they might be believing in some other extra protection. Right, moving on. And then this is the, I think most of you have been come across this kind of situation in the construction happening in the not only in the main contractors but also in the house level, or the small contractors while they are working in a very small construction projects. Like even in major contractors, they might provide some sort of personal protective equipment, but when it comes to the in the rural levels, in the small construction companies, subcontractors, they might not even worried about these kind of personal protective equipments or any other protection measures. As you can see, this like here, everything is connected to like very hazardous situation is being created, because there can be cascading impacts can be happen. And so if they fall down from this barrel, and then that can fall down, topple this guy who is here, and then there is a guy working here, and then and also there is one person working on top. So there is like entire system can collapse. So then coming back to showing some statistics about the fatal and non-fatal accidents happening in the construction industry. So the construction industry known to be one of the most hazardous industries, and less than 60% of the accidents being reported. Actual figures are likely to be even higher. And these are some of the cross section of the values. So then I'm not going to the details, but then as you can see, the most of the companies, they don't have awareness about what they do. And I have mentioned that most of the workers are not being skillful or not trained properly. And then there is lack of supervision and lack of assessment. And then they have not been updated with the new knowledge. And then when we come thinking about the non-fatal and fatal accidents, so the most of the time, what is happening, the most of the causes are falling from heights and stuck by falling objects, stuck by moving objects, electrocution and excavation. Though these are the most critical accidents which can cause a fatal accidents at construction sites. So the construction industry, 1 in 13, the number. So 13 accidents, one can be fatal, but in other industry, it is 115 to 1. So then you can see the number. These actual figures might be even higher than that. I heard that, I'm not exactly sure. The recent numbers are like 1 in 2. That is that I need to get verified, but still the fatal accidents ratio is very, very high. So then it been reported that most of the construction accidents reported. Most of the accidents being reported in this manufacturing and construction, 25 are represented from the coming from the construction industry. So then I think most of you might have seen this image. So it called the lunch at the top a skyscraper. This is how the United States of America, their construction safety levels in 1930s. So this the picture they have. This is not a this is not actually not a true picture, but this is a kind of a portrait of they wanted to market their most of this construction happening in 1930s in America. So then they wanted to take this picture as a kind of a poster, like a to use as a poster. So then this I assume most of you might have seen it. So these are the two photographers. Like I also thought to share that because it might be really interesting fact for you all. And then these two are the photographers who have taken like not sure who exactly took that picture, but there are a series of pictures like this. This is during the Rockefeller Center construction, and then as you can see the Empire State Building in the background. This is in New York, United States, in 1930s. So then this is how they work in the 1930s, which is more or less similar to what is happening right now in our country. So then they were like this in 1930. So as you can see, no protection whatsoever. They were working in a very high level, and similar to previous example which I have shown you. And like construction workers are usually they are like macho, very with the high, full of adrenaline and then masculine and all. So they want to show off their strength and all. So then this is like even today this is the case. But if I take like fast forward to today's situation, this is the Empire State Building, and Empire State Building, like some sort of a history which is not relevant, but I thought to share. It was the tallest tower until the Twin Tower taking over in 1973. Interestingly, Twin Tower was been destroyed by, as you know, in 9/11 attack. And then this is now what this is the during the One World construction. After Twin Tower fall down, they started constructing a new tower which called One World construction. As you can see now, they are being equipped with the latest safety gears and all. And they have moved from they wanted to eliminate the hazards completely. So then they have changed the way they construct things. So then instead of constructing at the site itself, they constructed things outside and then brought to the sites and then fixed them. And also they have been using many protection measures, as you can see, while they're doing the construction. So this is during the construction of One World. And this is after the construction. This is the 9/11 memorial. Actually, this picture I have taken, and it was like really a very nice site to visit and see. And this is the railway station, which is a structural engineering kind of phenomenon, like a very nice structure they have provided there. So this is the One World. So then what I wanted to highlight, this is the Empire State Building, like in 1930s. So they have came very long way in when safeguarding the workers and by providing them many safety measures. So then this is exactly where we need to go, and that will not happen in like it will not come fall down from the sky. We have to work so hard to achieve that level. So as you can see, like the same workers now working. So then I was fortunate to work in like very short period of time, and then even though I am not a construction worker, so if you can see, some stickers are there attached to their helmets. Those are the trainings they have to go through before entering into site. Any small safety violation can stop them from working, and then that should make them losing their job, as well as many if the company also been reported with accidents happening at the site, that will lose them getting the jobs in the future. So bidding for future, their scores will go down. So that shows how concerned the governments and then the authorities when in safeguarding the workers and providing a safe environment for the construction workers. And the safety officer is always, these pictures are from Google, but the situation is same, but still there can be unsafe situation as well. So then whenever if a safety officer who is a dedicated officer with his subordinate. They are walking all around the place every time, and then if they see something like this, they will give the warning, verbal warning, and if they are not following it, not only the worker, the friend also being completely might be taken out from the site. So then, just like today happening in Sri Lanka, many skyscrapers are there, and we will. This is the New York, and then most probably, like our kids will not remember Colombo as the like what we remembered as two Pittu Bambu, like Pittu Bambu and Twin Towers. It might be like this. This Colombo skyline might be just like New York, hopefully in the future. So then, but the, then the safety of the workers also has to uplift into that level as well. But we have long way to go. How to do that? So then, I wanted to bring your attention to this, because this is this exact same way, like the now for the COVID or dengue, we can use the same hierarchy of controls. So then what we can do is, first thing is controlling the hazards or controlling the exposure. Most importantly, most effective method is to eliminate the hazard or substitute it or providing engineering control. So then this is all administration, all maybe government or the authorities or the key or the people who take decisions, not the workers, right? So then exposure controls are the only thing that we can safeguard the workers are. Otherwise, it has to mainly it is the administration or the top management's commitment. So then this is one example. So then I'm not going into details, but if there is a machine which is very dangerous, then we can eliminate it or substitute it, isolate, or using engineering controls or the administrative, or use PPAs. The using PPA is the least effective method. So then I want to highlight how the governments are how the governments are committed to provide a safe working environment for the workers. This is nothing to do with the pandemic or the dengue, but still their commitment for providing a safe environment. So, like, I mean, it can be applicable. For example, it says everyone who undertakes or has the authority to direct how another person does work or perform a task is under legal duty to take reasonable steps to prevent bodily harm to that person or any other person arising from that work or task. Bill C-45 also added sections 22, 22.1 and 22.2 to the criminal code, imposing criminal liability on organizations and its representatives for negligence, right? So basically what it says is that if you are working in a site, and if you are working in a site, and then if someone under you is having a hazardous working in some sort of a hazardous situation, then myself as a supervisor or engineer or until the CEO of the company is responsible that safeguarding that worker and to remove any hazardous situations from the working site itself. So it is a criminal liability, and you can bring in front of the courts as you are negligible. So you have not provided safe environment for the workers. So then it can be applicable to COVID as well as dengue. So then so basically, if someone dies at the site, that means the CEO of that company is it can be charged with a criminal offense. So that is how powerful these laws are in. This is from Canada, in Canada, and it's like maybe any other developed countries. It is the same, but if I am not mistaken, until the last moment which I checked, so then in Sri Lanka we don't have construction specific occupational health and safety laws applicable to Sri Lanka. Only the guidelines or some regulations. So moving on. So then most of the companies, they follow ISO 45,000 occupational health and safety guidelines. And then in these guidelines, there might be several uh, methods being suggested and asked to the contractors to follow them in order to safeguard the construction workers. Yeah. So then these are the high level interventions to eliminate the hazard from the construction, and also some engineering controls and when to safeguard the workers. And so as you can see, some of the pictures and personal protective equipment, and then the some warning signs mandatory to provide at construction sites, and also construction first aid guide also being provided. So then as mentioned to you, this is the pre-job safety instruction PSI, which which all of us working in that site has to provide, has to fill before entering into the construction site. So anyone who is entering into the construction site has to fill that. So whether it is like you have to indicate what kind of risk you have to face at the sites, for example, environmental hazards or work at height hazards. So then if you have to, if there is any tick into that, so you need to write down what is the task, and then what is the hazard here, and then what are the controls you have been taking in order to safeguard yourself. For example, if the dengue is one of the hazards that we identified at that site, so then we need to write that hazard. And like if I am exposed to that hazard, right? So then based on my task, if I am exposed to that hazard, so then I need to write down what are the controls that I am being taking to safeguard me. So every construction worker has to undergo training, and they have been completely been monitored by a safety officer, and there will be a toolbox meeting at the every morning, so to educate them about the work they do, and then what kind of hazards they has to follow, they have to face, as well as to instructions to safeguard themselves. And they have to fill out this pre-job safety inspection instruction. So then there was a worker, some of the workers are coming from the Spanish speaking Latin American countries. So then they can't understand sometimes English. So then one of the workers being met with an accident, his leg was injured. So then while he was taking first aid at the site itself, there is a first aid like a kind of a room there. They can take the medication. He has been given mandatory leave for 2 weeks until he get his leg cured, and he has to follow kind of a safety manual, and he has to read it and then write an exam and pass it to show that he's not going to do the same mistake again. So that is how serious safety is in those countries. And also that is applicable to only the occupational health and safety hazards, but why can't we apply COVID and dengue also into that, right? So then coming back to Sri Lanka, so then these three images I took from today's news. One is from Colombo Times website, where Director General of the Ministry, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, mentioning that there will be clusters of COVID can be created in 5 districts in the near future. And another news, Dr. G. Vijay Surya mentions, he's the director of Ridgeway Hospital. He says there will be, with the rain, there can be cases being increased of the dengue cases, and there can be outbreak. And this is from Himalwari, like image from the Himalwari satellites. As you can see, the situation, the rain situation. You might have here the background. It's raining heavily in my area, and so the situation is same. So then, all three things are directly make an impact to the construction industry, because as I told you, workers are highly vulnerable, they are marginalized, so then they are vulnerable to COVID, and they are vulnerable to dengue, as well as the weather make a big impact to construction, the product, the meeting the targets, as well as it creates a very hazardous environment or breeding grounds for dengue, right? So then the other day, yesterday, I gave a call to one of the health and safety directors of the one of these leading construction companies, where they always take safety very seriously. And then he said, Dr. Chandana, what to do this with this rain? How can we stop this from happening? Construction industry is always exposed to other external situations, right? Not like the manufacturing where you work in a very isolated environment, but in the construction industry previously we need to only worried about time, cost, and quality of the construction, but we need to now think about the motivation of the workers, as well as sustainability, the negative environment impact of the industry, as well as the occupational health and safety, as I explained to you before. Now the corona and dengue, where we need your support to safeguard workers, as well as safeguard the outsiders from not making construction sites a breeding ground or forming a cluster in a construction industry. So then, just like due to COVID, 52 days it has been closed. Uh, United States Labor Department, or they have been introduced many guidelines uh, for to safeguard the workers from COVID, and this has I have mentioned the COVID clusters can be formed in construction industry. It happened in Singapore from a spread through construction dormitories. We are in a lockdown for 2 months. Can't go out. Singapore is very dangerous now, but we are lucky. We not stay workers dormitory. We sleep. It's a district in company store. This from Singapore, one of the developed countries. I'm not saying everywhere, and I'm not going to generalize the situation, but the numbers in the last year, there's a serious spike because of the COVID. So if it can happen in Singapore, it can happen in Sri Lanka as well, because construction is everywhere, it's the same, but with the rigid rules and regulations and like implementation of these rules and regulations are the way to come out. So then application of that hierarchy of controls to COVID-19 has been indicated here. What we can do to eliminate it, to reduce it, to isolate it, to control it, and then to provide PPE, and to finally to change the behaviors of the workers. Workers are always coming from different backgrounds. They can be therefore they are vulnerable to uh, uh, to the COVID situation. Yeah. So then construction industry has been open to construction, because we can't stop it, and then we can't keep it locked down forever. So then this under the new normal, what we can do that through the guidelines, following the guidelines and then the protocols, only that is the only way to overcome this. But still, even though we think that we are a tropical country, so we get rainfall throughout the year, mainly from two monsoons happening in the May to June, which is the southwest monsoon, and October to mid-December, which is the northeast monsoon. And still, as far as I know, based on what I heard from meteorology department, still the monsoon season has not started. What we have been going through is the low pressure situations in the Bay of Bengal. So then it will be there. It is not going to change. It is not going to change, and it will be there. It's because that is the nature of Sri Lanka, and this is the nature of construction. Without water, we can't do the construction, right? So you name it, to mix the cement and bring for concreting, and for curing concrete, and to clean the equipments, clean the machines, for everything. we need water. And then there will be a lot of water without, let's forget about rain, there will be water in construction. So that giving exposing the construction workers and the construction industry for breeding ground for the dengue mosquitoes. And these images, thankfully, image courtesy is from dengue control program, and there will be a lot of uh, uh, places in construction sites where with the breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And as you can see, these are this is like there will be a lot of water, and now they have been provided with we have been provided with mosquito nets, but I am not sure what is the purpose of having mosquito net when you are just in a close vicinity of a breeding ground of a mosquito, right? Even in the lift wells or in the covering materials, there can be many areas where water can clog. Apart from the typical construction, there can be many situations with this water. So then, this in the construction industry, these are the main areas. Again, this I got it from the dengue control program. So then, wet cement spots, 58%. Covering items, just like mentioned here, it is 5%. And discarded items, barrels, temporary removal, and cement holes. So these are the main areas where you can get the dengue. Dengue mosquitoes, as well as any other reasons like which we can think of. So then we know that dengue mosquitoes are more likely to bite during the daytime to spread the virus, and then the biting activity increases within 2 hours after sunrise and after few hours after sunset. So then that is the exact time where construction workers do their work. So that they work outside. And Sri Lanka is a tropical, humid country. So then they can't wear long sleeve shirts or many coverings to safeguard them, because it will be really hot inside. So then they usually wear light clothes, as well as it is a very densely populated area in the construction industry. Is very construction sites are very densely populated, labor intensive. Because of these situations, as well as because of the behavioral patterns of them, as well as there will be a lot of waste can be developed, or while constructing or after construction, in the from the construction sites. So then, if the proper work sites were not being properly managed, if the site cleaning or proper site keeping is not been maintained, can be a lot of areas where water can be clogged, and then there can be many mosquito breeding places can happen. So then
Recording in
for
progress.
we can't do that because we are connected with the area in vicinity of the site or surrounding cities and to the municipalities, right? So then if in imported case, so this is from a study conducted in a Singapore. I got this image. So then a mosquito can spread the virus to susceptible workers, and then it can create an infected worker. This infected worker can take this to the construction site, and then these infected workers can go to the community, or else uh, from this community it can start back again to the infected susceptible inhabitants of that community, and then these infected inhabitants can create another cycle of susceptible workers. So it is a cycle of which kind of vicious cycle where uh, infected cases and infected cases within the construction site and from a community itself, right? So then there were many case studies in Singapore where it says in 2013 and 2014 it is where this they experienced the worst dengue outbreak known to date. And so then they have noticed that even though despite a considerable low percentage of recorded clusters being construction site associated, the odds of such clusters expanding into major clusters were considerably higher than the non-construction site clusters, right? That shows that even though the site cluster is small, but it can create many cascading impacts to the community as well as site itself. So like this I have taken from a newspaper where they shutting down. This is to 2020, so completely shutting down. 2021 stop work orders issued, 10 contractors to be charged over mosquito breeding at construction sites. So this is from Singapore again. So then they are very serious about it, right? So then 21 stop workers been issued, 10 contractors to be charged, right? So then we know that and in a community level that is being very seriously been implemented, but in the construction level, so we might have to go into that level if there is a if we are going to safeguard the workers as well as the communities. So then this is again from China example. So then 102 construction site related cases they have been identified, and 131 community related cases after this case from a site in probably they have identified in a site in early September, and then the from a community the outbreak has been identified in late September, right? So then so that shows it is isolating the workers, or the site itself might not be effective. So then we have to think in a way, holistically as well. So it is in Sri Lankan context. In Sri Lanka, ongoing construction sites have been identified as a major reason for the rapid increase in number of dengue cases, because of these sites contain higher number of mosquito breeding places. So then and also abandoned mosquito breeding places are seen in construction sites, especially in the urban areas of Kalampo and Gampaha. And then these are the numbers. I got it from Dengue Control Unit again. Thank to them. Thank you very much for conducting these studies, which shows out of the observed sites, it is like 64%. There is a potential premises within the construction site itself. So then that shows, and the other higher number is at schools. So then and 10% of number of premises with lava. So then this shows why we need to work together, the construction industry and then the dengue control unit, as well as this authorities like SIDA and maybe municipalities has to work together. It's already been happening, and it's really thankful to that. But it has to be strengthened and has to be mainstreamed, not only in the major construction sites, but also in a small scale subcontractor level or community level small scale constructions as well. And this is in the provincial level. Again, I got the data from dengue control program. So the western, central, and southern, the highest cases being reported with the number of premises with lava. So then, without waiting till the last moment, best thing is as mentioned in the the hierarchy of controls, best thing is to stop them at the early stage as possible, or to eliminate the hazards at the early stage as possible. And so then these are the some of the examples of the areas where we can see that water stagnation can happen. So the puddles of ground and concrete flow at lower levels, because so then construction happen in cycles. So then if it is a tower construction, so then you construct the first floor, and then you move to the second floor, and then move to the third floor, and so on. So then the after you construct the first floor and second floor, so there is a very high chance you abandon that floors, and then there is a very high chance that water stagnate in these concrete floors. And then so then concrete has to be like every concrete truck enters into the construction site, has to this concrete has to be taken out, and then has to be cast cubes, and these cubes has to be cured, and before they've been sending them to the testing, right? So then these test cube tanks are very high potential breeding grounds for dengue mosquitoes. And the excess building materials, so the materials which we are planning to use in the future construction activities, or after construction, we keep them stacked in a certain areas. So then if and also they might have been covered from covering materials as well. These are very high potential breeding grounds for oils, water stagnation areas. And also there can be many areas in the worker dormitories, as well as worker toilets, where uh, there can be water stagnating areas. So this has to be clean. And equipment and machineries, so then these are concrete mixtures. So then for the mixing concrete, that we use water, as well as after mixing the concrete, we clean them, and then this there is a very high potential that there is a water can be stagnated in these equipments or machineries. And also there can be the items that which are discarded, and then receptacles. So then this can be also high potential areas. And some pits, so like sometimes we go in the underground construction. So if the water level is it is below the water level, so then there is a water always coming up. So then we have to pump them out in order to keep it without making it is the breeding ground for mosquitoes to lay their eggs, right? And then demolition, like construction, sometimes happening in the as like you have to there is the construction is already there, and then sometimes you might have to demolish existing construction and then go for the new construction. So then demolishing these debris can create potential breeding grounds, as well as these drains, temporary channels, and constructed for drains. They can be potential breeding grounds, as well as these freight containers. They are on top of them. It can be, and also the trenches is a very high potential area. Water storage, filtration, sedimentation tanks, and dams. There will be these can be there in order to store the water in any case if they want to use for their cleaning activities of the equipment. So they in order to clean the trucks, and then sometimes you have washing bays where concrete trucks, when they enter into the site, you need to clean their tires and all. So then there in these cleaning bays, there can be water storages, and then sedimentation tanks and so on. So this can be again a potential breeding ground. And also after construction also, if we not do a proper, like we are mainly worried about during construction, but if you are not thinking about the after construction, then this then these can also be potential breeding grounds. So gutters, rooftops, overhanging slabs are very high potential areas for this. You can consider them as very high potential areas. And so I thought of bringing some experience or some share some because it might be relevant for the audience where we have done some safe hospital assessments. Thanks to I would like to mention Dr. Hemant Herat, the Deputy Director General, as well as the coordinator, national coordinator of the DPR Preparedness and Response Division, where together with our department we have assessed some hospitals within the in Sri Lanka to check their adaptability to the WHO safe guideline. And I'm not going to the WHO, but I will share you some experience where we had in our I thought to share it because it might be interesting. It might be interested for you all. So then here, this is at the maternity ward in one of the hospitals where you can see some water stagnation happen on top of the ceiling, and then as you can see, the mushrooms are coming out. So it is because the high level of moisture presence. So then most of these issues in these hospitals happening because of this uh, poor water management as well as maintenance. Water is sometimes the contractors, when they design like if they are coming from outside, if they, let's say for example Korea, so then in their designs they might not use much water, but in Sri Lanka we use lot of water for all our activities, right? So then then the designs might not be enough, and also we do many modifications to our existing structures. Then therefore in the structural modifications can create some the structural modifications and create a potential breeding ground for the mosquitoes. So this is in one of the main hospitals where this funnel was being placed because with some cotton, because the water is dripping one drop at a time because there is a water stagnation happening in the on top of funnel. So I will moving on with the regulations implemented by the CEDA, which is their guideline is very comprehensive. If you can I assume that you might have already gone through it, and it is a very comprehensive guideline. I'm not going to the details of it, but they have provided, and then also they are working. CEDA is working together with the dengue task force to establish a surveillance team to monitor health practices at construction sites. And then checklist has been produced to check the breeding grounds, and they want to first week, third, like the and their different weeks, what are the actions they have been taken, which is a really good things. And then do not only construction area, they are checking the living quarters and storage yards, which I mentioned before, and then toilets and bathrooms and cooking and washing areas of the workers. And then they have they have they have established a reporting mechanism to work with the municipalities to report it probably a monthly basis. And also contract obligations were identified, worker responsibilities were identified, as well as most importantly, they have identified this, which most of the time the contractors were saying that lack of funding as an excuse, right? So then then if they are easy to say some excuses not providing funds for these actions to safeguard their construction area from dengue breeding grounds. So then it has been implemented as a to the bill of quantities as a billing activity, and then it is now item number 28. It is in the page number 19 of that book. So then, which is allowing lump sum amount in the bill of quantities. So then the contractors has obligations to provide some allocation for to safeguard the and workers as well as the to implement a monitoring system. So most of the time, this safety and occupational health and safety, as well as these kind of activities, are the least attention. They given least attention because when they are going to cut the overheads to make the activities profitable, so then these are the activities they easily cut off to save some money. Right, so then it is a really good set of regulations being provided. And then I will finally I will go to because it's almost 1 hour now. So I will go to some examples from the Singapore, where what they have proposed. This from the Land Transport Authority Singapore guideline. So then same hierarchy of control that they have used to eliminate the hazard completely from sites. So what they have proposing is prevent water collection, remove water stagnant water in order to reduce the sources, and the lava control, use chemicals, use biological controls. Then come into the adult mosquito control, conducting fogging or use mosquito traps, and use in finally the so then, as just like the PPE in the occupational health and safety measures, they are proposing use insect repellents. And so the source reduction. So most importantly, good housekeeping practices are very important. Whenever someone sees, and it is not one person's responsibility, it is like has to be a part of the culture of the workers as well as to the senior management. And whenever someone sees a point where, or a place where they see stagnation of water, it has to be covered with cement. So then these holes were being covered. So these the openings in the hollow blocks might be has been provided with some poles, and then when they removed for the scaffold, when they remove the scaffoldings, they have to cover them with cement and concrete. And also proper practices for discarding construction equipment, and drainages has to be clean. And then not only cleaning, it has to be kept without water, as well as the clean site has to be cleaned properly. And but you might ask, is it possible to do with current weather? That is what this the director of that construction company asked from me. Is it possible to do it? But we have to try. So it has to be a collective responsibility. It's easy to give excuses, but has to be a collective responsibility. And also inspections, like this is and to control the lava, so we can apply the anti-mosquito oil in order to control this. So this is actually yesterday I saw in a this mosquito eggs. And also in this Akuragoda construction site, they have been example, setting an example for others, where they trying to keep the site safe, and also eliminating any hazardous situation, not only occupational health and safety, but also when it comes to dengue as well. And again, maybe we can use the sand and also BTI bacteria, and also the fogging, which in order to control the adult mosquitoes. But the point is, this without coming into this level, we have to stop it at the first instance, as initial stages, as much as possible. So then personal protection. So I see in the social media many officials of the dengue control program. So then they try their best to educate the communities to safeguard themselves as well as their kids and loved ones by at least applying the insect repellents, and also cleaning the environment. So then together we can fight this dengue, because it is construction industry can't isolation in isolation can't do it. It has to be a collaboration between the government, as well as the commitment from the senior management. So that senior management commitment won't come easily if it is not implemented in the very high level as rules and regulations, just like sorry about that, I lost the connection. Yeah, so then yeah, so this is the kind of end of my presentation, and then as I was telling, it is everyone's responsibility to safeguard the workers, the community, as well as the entire Sri Lanka from this dengue outbreaks. It is you can't do it alone. It has to be coming from community. It is collective responsibility. Yeah, thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandana. It's a very resourceful and eye-opening presentation, focusing on the construction industry, one of the thriving industry in Sri Lanka. And now the forum is open for any questions. If anybody has any question to be clarified or any suggestions, anything, now it's for you.
Can I open with a question? I am Dr. Murali, consultant from the anti-filaria campaign. Shall I start?
Yes, Murali.
Can I?
Hello.
Yes, Murali, definitely. Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So I have worked as a MOH earlier in the Colombo municipality area, and also I am presently the consultant community physician at the filaria campaign. So I like to share a few thoughts of what you have said. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So please stop all the other background noises, I think. One of the aspects what I noticed when I was working as a MOH in the Colombo municipality area, that the constructors, after laying the concrete foundations, they allow some water, thinking that will make the structure more strong. So therefore, they allow the water and hide it. They knew that very well. The health authorities are not happy about that, and that will lead to... Can you hear? Can you hear?
Yes, yes, sir. We can hear you well.
Right, yeah. So then they allow the water to stagnate on the concrete floors for a period, maybe 2-3 weeks, and during that time we see that a lot of dengue breeding take place. So that is because they hide that, it is difficult to control. So that is one aspect. And the other aspect is that what you have told about this, the safety measures of the construction workers, although maybe not within the domain of the dengue, it is very important. I have seen is that there were several incidents where these construction workers have fallen and died. So there was no adequate compensation, and most of them are from the people who have been brought from the estate, and then they were there. I am not sure that what is the solution to them, to protect them. But on the other hand, the criminal liability seems to be, I am not sure whether that is the Canadian, you draw parallel with the Canadian criminal liability of these construction workers. That may be, if we apply to the construction, that may be all right. But on the other hand, if we apply to the health sector, say for example, now we conduct night blood filming with our staff, very well knowing that there is a slight risk of contracting COVID. right? They go to houses and in fact they have asked for thermometers, but we are not in a position to issue thermometers for screening, and thermometer is not 100% effective also, but still. So applying your criminal liability. So if they contract the COVID during the night blood filming, then they can sue us and put under the jail for sending them for night blood filming. So that applying a situation where the developed country and drawing parallel to the developing country may be a little tricky. That is another aspect. And then I see the new problem, what we see at the moment is that a lot of construction workers were hired from India because of the cheap labor issue. So before looking into this aspect, I think that is the primary issue. The occupational unit also should note that those imported workers are working more than 16 hours for a day. So, and that is obviously not good for their end. The new normal of COVID situation, I don't know whether those all are allowable or whether, as you say, maybe we have to go for a criminal prosecution. So that is other aspect that, and this situation happens because they are getting exploited, because our workers are not agreeing to work for 16 hours. On the other hand, the Sri Lankan law says that only the minimum payment for a month, not hourly. You go to the West, you know that the minimum payment is for the hour. Yeah. So then they exploit from KFC to all the Mudalalis are exploiting that situation and exploit all the workers working in Sri Lanka. So I think that before going for criminal prosecution, we have to stabilize this basic labor protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murali, if I have noted down your name correctly. So I just I'm not saying that it has to be implemented in Sri Lanka, these criminal liabilities, but that is the situation in the developed countries. So they are taking it seriously. That's what I wanted to make, because we have a very long way to go, as I shown you. So because we can't jump like that. There's a process, a progressive development. So we have to go through that before coming to that level. So hopefully one day we might not. You have mentioned that curing has to be there, because if I tell you the technicality of it, because the as you know, the cement we concrete for the concrete. So then if we don't cure by providing placing the water on top of these surfaces or in the column that we have to spray it, something like that, then what will happen is this the water will evaporate, because Sri Lanka is a very tropical, very humid due to the tropical nature of our country. So then water will evaporate. So in order to stop that, we have to provide this. So yeah, completely agree. Sometimes even 1 week we have to provide this curing. So we can use so the chemicals in the cement itself that we can use, but for the concrete. But most of the contractors they go for the easy way out. That is very because they want to be this construction to be economical. Yeah. So then regarding the rules, that is happening there, but it might not be directly applicable. It has to. We have to long way to go. Yes. Thank you very much for those very valuable, very valid comments.
Dr. Chandana, can you kindly highlight some of the areas where some modifications, structural modifications can be made to minimize the breeding in construction sites, if there are any?
Yeah, one modification like which I really like for construction industries. What is happening in outside? So they do most of the construction. It is a completely a different dialogue and a different discussion. So what they do is they do most of the construction outside in the factories. So as you can see, all these panels and the steel bracings and everything, like you might have come across the term like modular construction. They do construction outside. So then this outside construction, they can control. Then there will be less hazardous within the construction site itself. As that is again providing a solution for that that director, health and safety director said. So then as the site really challenging. Like if we go in and challenging and economical, not so economical as well. It might be really costly if you're going to cover from the rain and all. But curing, as I mentioned to you previously, it has to be provided. But modular construction, like where modular construction is, what we do is we do the construction off-site, and that way with minimum number of labor we can do the work. Then that is a solution for COVID, and we can ensure the quality, and we can the occupational health and safety as well. So we bring it aside, we just fixing them just like building blocks.
Dr. Chandana,
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Tilina, and I have an issue that after finishing the buildings, is there a mechanism to screen water stagnation areas? Because we see we can, with simple measures, for example, now it's a gutters are a problem, but we should have an innovative mechanism to minimize or avoid stagnation of water in gutters. Maybe the slope, then designs, then, for example, a slab. After finishing all, if we keep the correct slope, you can easily avoid within half an hour, all the water will be drained. So like that, what sort of mechanism to screen after finishing the building to avoid water stagnation?
Yeah, it is a very valid question because in a construction after like mostly as just like what I shown here in these hospitals also, most of the issues are arise because of the poor maintenance, and then the poor water management, because from the rain we are getting a lot of water, as well as from the maintenance activities we get, like during the use of our premises, there will be a lot of water stagnated. So then the two problem is, even though we provide slope, proper slope in these sites, sometimes these slopes can be, if you don't maintain it or clean it properly, so then there can be, so this is not in Sri Lanka, but from other side, in some other country. So then there can be water can be stagnated. Main suggestion is just like right now, we do have something called this green building concepts. So then in that green building concepts, we are looking at the environmental aspects of a building. So how the building is performing, with respect to the environment, like, because buildings are mostly like very high carbon dioxide emitting sources. So then in order to get the green points, there are measures that they are proposing. just like that, it has to be, if we can implement such a scoring method for a building, like not at the construction, but at the maintenance as well as at the use, areas to be monitored and to be clean and properly maintaining. That kind of a scorecard has to be, if we can maintain, then we can omit these issues, because even if we provide the best construction and with the slope and everything, but still as you can see, these gutters were being provided with the measures, but if we don't maintain it properly, then I don't think this is going to be very successful.
Are there any other questions? Sure. Yeah, if there are no any other comments or suggestions, we can conclude. I'm very much thankful to Dr. Chandana for his very resourceful presentation on one of the most important aspects here. As I told you, one of the thriving industry in our country, and also very much useful for our economy, and also very much concerned about our people's health. So thank you very much, Dr. Chandana. I think that with this knowledge, we will be able to, as professionals in future, to get together and put together on our brains and modify this area, or do some constructive industry. Thank you very much, Dr. Chandana.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.